So, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another scene for the living world of darkness, a rage across New York, where there's a 10 point. 10 point is finally out in the public eye, sort of, kind of. Okay, in the umbral eye, sort of, kind of. But she is no longer tucked away, out of sight, to the point that, let's face it, Akub and Akliath were walking her rounds and doing her duties for her. Bless their little hearts. But she is back in action, perhaps not enthusiastically, but all the same, the Metis is finally out. And she is walking her rounds, much as she does on any given day when she's not, crippled with sorrow. And there's no pep in her step, but all the same, she is still walking the usual trails, walking the usual footpaths, tending the usual shrines, and has picked up as if she had never trailed off, as if nothing had happened. She's quieter. More people are probably still giving her space, for all that various kinfolk and Guru recognize her and her work. But all the same, with the exception of the fact that Jason and Helena are probably only so far behind on any given day, she is simply doing her thing. And we'll say, for the sake of argument, that she's at, the Cairnheart. Why not? Because that's where the bulk of the totem shrines are, I believe. And is, we'll say, only just packing up her things, piling up incense into a bag to put into her swag, picking up a censer that she has snuffed, picking up various offerings that she brought in excess, in abundance.
And lured by the crippling despair, Jacob will enter the scene. Really just going about his business. Most of his days are spent working, locking up baddies, or tending to his duties as master of challenges, and a bit off the side coaching for his cousin in what a Garo is and what they do and all that jazz. Mainly because even though it's the parents' job, she's Robin is still his cousin, so he still looks out for her a great deal. But today he's just going about his business and will happen to bump into
Sad
a 10
point.
point who really, when hasn't she been horribly damaged and depressed? And man, it's just so nourishing, Jacob. Right? This is how this works.
Hey, there are lots of times that she has been perfectly happy, sir.
In a very depressed way.
And he will, for what it is worth, as in regards to his work with Robin, he is hardly the only one who spends an excess of time in the company of some of the cubs. After all, it takes a village, right? Yeah. But yeah, he can walk in and be exposed to Sad Point, who is perhaps not in the midst of tears, but certainly not a chipper. She's not happy, but that's okay because she's got it on lockdown and she's doing her shit. And she will probably tip her chin briefly, like essentially the reverse of a nod, as she do when she spots Jacob coming past, perhaps moving to Falcon Shrine, who knows. But she doesn't engage beyond that, and potentially with even lines on her arms fading to nothing, we'll be tucking various things away. There are fresh offerings on several of the shrines. There are the candles have been trimmed. The excess wax has been cleaned away. The incense has been changed out and the dust from previous incense swept away. The shrine's wiped down. Everything is in order. You fucking troll.
Yeah, Jacob will approach the sad point.
And at that point, we'll shift her bag a bit and rouse up to her feet. Perhaps even going so far as to kind of avoid looking at him in general. Not impolitely, just I'm so busy I didn't even notice. Oh, you're there, and now I can't ignore you. So yeah, once she's gotten up and was so hoping to turn to leave, there's Jacob. Standing close enough that she can't pretend he's not there. So she'll fire in a glance his direction, which is about all the invitation to speak that he is going to get.
I have a 10 point.
Raya?
I was just taking a break. You mind if I said?
And she who has just stood has a moment, a torn moment of, I could just say yes and walk away, right? Yes. And she offers a mild sort of shrug.
What was it? What are those little things where you keep like hot coffee in on a cold day?
Like just a travel mug?
Travel mug. I think he'd have a travel mug. Yeah, he has a travel mug.
Does he have a travel mug in Yambra?
Oh,
no love for you. Unless you dedicated it, which you could.
I can't. I'm at my limit. I can't have Kevlar foam and 2 sets of clothes. To be fair, the Kevlar could be considered part of the police uniform, but we'll say not. He could normally dedicate more, but with his clave, it gives him a reduced Gnosis rating when he's wearing it.
It do. Is he wearing it?
I'm not sure if that undoes.
If what?
I'm not sure if that undoes like dedicated stuff when you don't have the clave on you.
I imagine that you could dedicate something into the spot and then, I mean, to be fair, like you could, if you wanted to, dedicate a travel mug, carry it around that day, and then just put it down in the Tellurian, and it essentially is no longer dedicated if you're not carrying it. You can dedicate things and rewrite the spots.
I feel like this travel mug is metagaming and over in the whole scene.
10 Point has a travel mug. It's in her swag.
What?
10 Point can carry anything she wants because she has a fucking swag. Come at me.
I dislike you.
No travel mug for you.
No, he doesn't got a travel mug. Fuck. Never mind. In which case, he'll just sit down because he doesn't have anything to drink. Jacob's sad.
You're sad.
Sad Clay.
I think that is excessive. I don't think this is even comparable, sir.
I feel like the loss of a travel mug was far more so than anything 10 Point could have gone through.
What the fuck? You're a terrible person. You keep this in character, young man. Fucking terrible.
Yeah, but Jacob is lovely, and so he thinks and says none of these things.
Totally comparable to the loss of a kinfolk that was yours that served as a mother figure. Totally comparable.
Yeah, please. Yeah, he'll just take a seat.
At which point 10 Point will feel obliged to stay. And just kind of mechanically folds herself right back down where she was. Probably just kind of staring idly ahead. We'll say that that is where Great White Mouse's shrine is. But it is obviously not a focused stare. It's just looking.
Sorry I couldn't... I haven't had tea with you lately. To be honest, I'd probably invite you now, but Umber and you look a little bit busy. Unless you're down for it.
We are both very busy people these days, Raya.
Yeah, times have really changed. It's weird. Like stuff happens in a few months and it feels like years.
She just nods idle agreement.
Maybe this is why when you go into politics you age faster.
I couldn't say.
We're in one of those grim spots again. And every 6 months, there'll be some sort of disaster.
Is that not the way of the nation, Raya?
I don't know, it just feels very cyclical in a way that seems very... not manufactured, but like preventable or shouldn't be there. I'm fortunate I'm not really feeling the worst of it this time. If I didn't know better, I probably wouldn't have even recognized it was there. I have a feeling in a few months I'm going to be on the receiving end of that.
Turns a vaguely curious glance aside. Finally looks at him. Very briefly. And what makes you say that, Raya?
I become any more invested in the mortal eye and I'm going to get famous. But I doubt it'll be me anyone is targeting.
Really is.
I had a chat for water about that. Had a chat with the water about that.
Sounds wise.
I don't know. It seems too expected.
The warder does like to keep things orderly, right? He likes to know what is happening, when it happens, why it's happening. He's very efficient. Very to the point.
I'll need to look in a way to fix it before I break something.
Oh my goodness, I'm turning up my volume, but what was that?
Oh, sorry. He just says, I guess I'll need to fix something before I break it, or learn how to anyway. To be honest, I'm not really as concerned with moving up in the police force anymore. I'm more concerned with having someone to leave it behind to.
Just keep a weather eye on your kin, Raya.
One day. After what happened with Robin, I'm not taking any chances.
Nor should you.
You met Robin, by the way.
Yes, Raya.
You see her in the Umbra?
Yes, Raya.
Nothing I recognized from Falcon's Bridge.
And I guess I would say it is one of the spirits from Pegasus' brood.
Guess that's just one more thing for my family and the Furies to bond over. What a weird set of coincidences.
There's a small shrug, an almost kind of dismissive shrug. Is there anything I can help you with, Raya? Anything that you need me for? It's pretty obvious that she's kind of like angling like, hey, do you need me? Because if not, I'll just run.
I remember that being our thing.
Pardon?
Like, you'd ask if you'd need me for something, and then I to keep you around would you need you for tea, and then we'd have tea.
It has been a long time since then, Raya, and many things have happened. And she finally turns a glance over to him. Because he doesn't carry anything like a swag, so she just kind of gives a brief kind of inquisitive once over.
I didn't expect you to face down a truth catcher seems very out of character for you.
It was a point worth making, Raya.
Hmm.
This sept doesn't know how to handle Metis, and they never have.
A lot different than from the 10 point I knew a few months ago. The cost of sounding patronizing, I'd say you've grown up a lot.
One has little choice in the nation, Raya, besides to adapt and grow.
I don't know.
Either way, I didn't have to win. My making a challenge is anomalous enough. Regardless of the point being settled, the point has been made. The sept doesn't know how to handle Metis. And until they are willing to open their eyes, they never will.
It's really very William White of you.
I do not needlessly sympathize with those who do not deserve sympathy. But a child died because people were so unwilling to open their minds to the experiences of others, to the lives of others, and assume that everyone is just human and will react as they expect a human would. But we are not and have never been human. The most human I will ever be, if I'm very fortunate, will be when I am being cradled in someone's arms after my death.
You know, how to say? I guess you could say I'm a very, very odd mixture of curious and concerned.
And why is that, Raya?
Well, on the one hand, you're correct. Very much not human. So there is far less, if any, impetus at all for us to act in a human fashion other than what is necessary. On the other hand, part of what I felt has set the nation back. Well, I suppose it's just another excuse at the end of the day. It's not a driving ideology. It is a contributing factor as to what Garu causes Garu to put themselves above others. That because there is less impetus to act on a human fashion, that they may ignore it.
Raya, the only thing that holds the nation back, that grinds it to a halt, is all of those who come from human lives and expect the nation to work as the human world does. It does not. It never has. It never will. Tradition is tradition, and you can only change it with blood.
Oh, when you put it like that, you always make it sound as if a nation will lose.
I said no such thing, Raya. I said that if you were worried about the nation suffering difficulties and failing or falling short, it is because of people like William White who cannot accept they are no longer human and expect the nation to work in a human way. I don't know if you've noticed, but humans don't battle the worm particularly well. And a human mindset does not lend itself the kind of strength, the kind of purpose that we need to fight.
Hmm. This caused Jacob to think like he kind of. He kind of like navel gazes for a moment.
You what?
Navel gazes?
Hmm.
Hmm. I don't know. I'd know a human who'd argue the opposite, but I can't make her argument for her.
There are many humans that would,
Uh,
but there's not a human in the world, not beyond the kin, and even some of them cannot cope with the scale of the battles we fight. Very few out of the many, many we have can truly dedicate themselves to our battles and to our cause to the degree that we have to. I've never been human, Raya. Not for a moment.
I don't know. I feel like that's why that human is different, because she's not talk. She's done and seen things.
And good for her, Raya. But until she has done as much as one of us, it's a moot comparison.
I wonder how much she has done. Ultimately, then, that's a shifting of responsibility towards the Garu.
She kind of turns him a glance, again, brow knitted. What do you mean by that?
Well, if human cannot, well, does not have the capacity to aid the planet, Gaia, the world, in the way that we can.
They are not the teeth and claws of Gaia, Raya. They cannot.
And ultimately, that changes the nature of the question.
If you are angling for something, Raya, please be upfront with it. I don't understand what you're trying to prove. Humans
Can't
are
really.
not Guru.
I feel like we can't really complain about humans if the argument's being made that they don't have the capacity to defend the Earth anyway.
They don't. I do not complain about humans. I complain about Hamid Guru that try to bring a human mindset to the Guru. The nation has its ways for a reason. And all of the upsets we have suffered, the worst of them have been because some human-minded Guru has tried to bring human things to the nation without being
Yeah.
willing to spend the price in blood to make the change. They think that they can
So,
simply talk their way through whatever they wish to do.
to prevent more upsets, we need more upsets, because that is what blood is.
That is how change is done in the nation. If you wish to make something different than what it has been for years and years, for generations upon generations, you pay to prove your point in blood. You're a Philodox, Raya. You understand the
But
nature
where
of
has that
challenge.
gotten the nation? Is my question.
Do you think we are failing, Raya?
I think it can do far more than what it is currently doing.
Perhaps it would be doing far more if a human-minded guru, if a septive human-minded guru, had not put one life before many. We would have one less obstacle to tackle, wouldn't we, Raya?
You see, our laws are written largely by human-minded Garu. So if you want to get annoyed at human-minded Garu, I would figure you'd be questioning tradition, not arguing for it.
The laws were written long before humans came to the state they're in now, Raya.
That's a bit of a cop-out answer.
Is it a cop-out, Raya, to make the point that things were very different back when these laws were created?
Well, then I could just use that argument to say, well, things are different now. Why we should maintain laws that are clearly outdated. Right?
Because they work, Raya.
Do they?
And it is only to the point that they are questioned and they are fought against that we have such issues, as we did with the war against the Sept of the Sentinel that nearly took place, as the hellhole that has grown out of control back home, that saps even my own, even the one from which I came, to field the bodies to battle. Because those who might have fought it came here and died. Over one woman who died months later. Not even years, months.
Oh, she mattered that little? They shouldn't have sent an army to go collect her then. Although, I will freely admit that that is absolutely down to human-minded Garu doing human-minded things. Politics. Be the death of us all.
Finally gives her head a shake. Starts picking herself up.
If you want, we can have tea tomorrow.
I'm sure I'll be quite busy apologizing to the spirits for my neglect over the last couple days. Elena and Jason did a fine job of walking in my shoes, but it is still neglectful for the keeper to put her work aside.
Every
Even
now
in
and then the
grief.
world can wait. But if you're busy, you're busy.
I have no interest in having circular arguments about things that we will not agree on. I have no interest in having tea with someone who nearly killed my Raya and has opposed him time and again.
Nearly killed him.
You told me of your frenzy.
Ah, right, yeah. No, I did apologize for that. I'll freely take responsibility for that.
The growth and change that I have had is thanks to my Raya, who does not try to make me different than what I am, simply tries to make me who I am.
Oh, that is woefully misinformed. Like, just on a base level, that's not how communication functions.
She tilts her head. Excuse me, Raya.
What communication has an impact on someone's psyche, either reinforcing it or conflicting with it?
Are you arguing the point?
To say that he's done absolutely nothing to change you when you have clearly changed and are
I
putting
have
that
said it
change down
is
to him is
thanks
ridiculous.
to my Raya that I have been able to grow and change, not that he has done nothing.
Don't put it down to one or the other.
You somehow debate the idea that my Raya and the time that he has spent with me and the things that he has said to me, you think that somehow I am wrong in saying that he has taught me to be who I am instead of what I am. That he has helped me make these changes that you seem to be so in awe of. It is not as though you have been here to see, Raya.
I believe I'm having difficulty understanding what you're saying.
I was giving credit where it was due, Raya.
You're crediting Aiden for the change, because I would not dispute that.
That is what I said, Raya.
And I'm not sure why you're confused as to why I don't appreciate all those changes. I appreciate some of them. I think you've definitely grown up, as I said before. It's good in some ways.
It seemed to
not
be a
good in every
positive
way.
thing until I credited it to my alpha. Have you changed your mind?
No, I credited your ability to stand up for what you believe in, which is not something you would have done in the past. You'd have deferred to a superior and let it be that. Which, if you credit that to Aiden, then credit to Aiden, I suppose.
I do.
Although you're not a child, so I guess it is not really credit to Aiden, but yourself.
She just gives her head a little, bows it a bit, gives it a bit of a shake, but begins to, like, swivels one of her feet, points it off as though meaning to turn. Is there anything else you need from me, Raya?
At some point, I don't believe in the, to be fair, fairly short time I've known you, relatively speaking, that I've ever needed anything from you. Or we're still here.
And how well have you known me, Raya?
I don't claim to know you particularly well. We've known each other a few months. I suppose that's a long time for us.
It is.
It annoys me that it is. Man, I feel far more distant than I once was. I don't like that. Sound like a fucking old man. I don't like being old.
There are worse things you could be than old, Raya.
I don't know. If I'm considering that outlook, I don't think I'm holding myself to a particularly high standard. I don't mind being old, I guess. But I don't know. I should be doing something more for that age.
You have a position that earns you high regard. You have achieved a rank that earns you high regard. It is better than most achieve in their lifetime.
But I don't think I thought about the end very well. You stop now. It's strange. I guess I've accomplished a lot of what I wanted to do. So I'm looking for something new.
Is it so hard to find things to accomplish when the city is rife with pains?
That's a given. We're all working towards that, one way or the other. I'm looking for long-term solutions. Those Banes will come back one day.
Those pains accompany vampire activity, Raya. Perhaps doing something about that in the long run.
But the old vampires sire younger vampires. The Bloodbanes are a matter of number and quantity over quality. Most of the time, at least.
Are
But
you
then
so sure?
if it's not, then we've got a real problem on our hands.
I am sure that there have always been a number of leeches in the city, Raya, but it is only occasionally that these Banes assault every street. I imagine that they accompany the arrival of particularly accomplished or aged vampires, but I believe that we have Cammy looking into that, Raya.
Some leeches are more tainted than others. Some can actually pass as untainted.
If you say so.
Intriguing. Supposedly. Ironically, those who cling to the nation of humanity.
A leech is a leech, Raya.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm hardly advocating for the survival, their continued existence. I think we just happen to run into the worst offenders because they're the most obvious. I remember we once had an understanding of those that were able to blend in more effectively. Don't know if they're still here. But no, not really looking to defeat Banes. I mean, I guess it comes down to what do you consider a victory against the worm? 10 point.
Pardon? Say that bit again?
What would you consider a victory against the worm? 10 point.
What would I consider victory? On the grand scale. At the most
Like
ideal.
what would you consider like a victory, like, you know, in general?
In general, or in an ideal world where the war was over?
Well, war is over, there is no victory left to be had, but
Wouldn't ending the war be the ultimate victory, Ryan?
of course, but I guess you like what is a victory against the worm, you know, in this war? What do you consider a major step forward towards that ultimate goal of ending the War of Apocalypse?
A major goal would be Perhaps demolishing the hellhole in its entirety, Ryan.
Hmm.
So that they had no place to begin to foster more banes, to spread again, to cleanse the city. Perhaps more to current events, to deal with the hellhole overseas, to see it finally quashed, so that those who have come from every sept, from every tribe, could finally go home. The septs there are half empty now. They have given and given and given to the war. It is time for them to come home. Long past time for them to come home and to tend to their own septs before they too are at risk for lack of sheer manpower.
I agree. First time we've done that in a while. Smokes.
It seems like a reasonable thing to agree on.
Yeah, man. He kind of thinks about like how sad that is in a way. No, I guess the question is how are we going to get there? Because defending our set from Banes, I mean, that's a defense, but it doesn't contribute to the overall goal.
Find out what prompts the creation of these banes or invites them into our city and do away with it, so that they are no longer given a place to find succor.
Comes down to how do we lessen corruption within the sept and the larger area?
The bloodbanes are not due to simple corruption. There is something that comes into this city, and they come in with it.
I remember before Pounce died, she told me something. She'd left the sept and found the place where these things were being made.
I could have sworn she found the place where the shadows are being created, Ryan.
That's what I meant, sorry.
A shadowbane has been dealt with. Albeit at the loss of one of our own.
But I don't know.
Both times that the bloodbanes have grown in number, there has been sightings of a particular symbol, I believe. I do not know what it means, but I know that it is tied to them.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah, it's an inverse. It's a reverse ankh, right?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah. It's the symbol for the sword of Cain, also known as the Sabbat.
She gives a helpless shrug. She has no idea what that is.
Basically, they're like a group of leeches that think they're all descended from Cain, a man called Cain. In the Abrahamic faith of humanity, Cain was the third man and the first murderer who murdered his brother. They believe that they're descended from him and worship him and wish to destroy all of the ancients that he created so that they may usher in the end times as his army, as the Dark Father, as Cain is known among them, will come to judge them all.
Then perhaps start with ridding the city of them, Raya, in particular. Hunt them down, find out who they are, give the sept the necessary information to follow through on it. Perhaps work with the Wormfoe. Rather than trying to kill or discredit him.
I remember doing that when I was a cub. I actually remember doing that a few months ago. Um, Contempt of Court, Aaron's murderer was one of them. We destroyed him. He was one of the stronger of their kind. But they're tricky. Trickier than they should be. If you know how they live, they're fairly trivial to deal with, in the sense that they operate during the night. Canaanites, as they call themselves, are nocturnal, obviously. They find it hard to wake during the day, so it means they're trapped, but the more savvy ones...
Then find more, Raya. Drag them out into the sun.
I'd very much like to.
You seem to want something to work towards. There's your something. Rid the city of these people that are Swords of Cain, whatever they mean to call themselves. But if they are big enough that they usher in the Bloodbanes, then we have dealt with two threats at once.
They've done so before. I'm not sure if they're the cause now, obviously, but if there is a correlation again, they probably are to some extent or another. They are serial killers of, well, they're pretty much every stereotype you could imagine from a vampire.
I don't see how it makes a difference, Raya.
Well, monsters be monsters. But at least the tragic monster was trying, even if they're doomed to fail.
It doesn't matter if they're tragic. It doesn't matter if they bemoan their fate. They are what they are. They'll be dead in turn. They'll be dealt with in turn. If you want something to work towards, the Wormfool already has. What is her name now? Makes hard choices. Working on discerning where the Bloodbanes gather and who they may be tied to, or where they may be tied to. I am certain that with that information you could find out more and actually make progress, so that we could at least walk the streets through the Umbra again safely. Considering that we are no longer allowed to remain on Sept, I at least must walk home through the Umbra, and while I have the means to do so safely, not all do.
Yep.
We can hardly deal with the lesser, more personal threats if this overshadows all of it.
Should be able to locate them with my ties to the police force. They often pop up where there are a lot of disappearances and killings.
As I said, we have makes hard choices, helping already to do this. I am sure that between you and her, you could compile a good bit of information and find out far more. And once we know the place and the people they are tied to, it is only so difficult to deal with the target once we have one. Just help put the crosshairs on someone, Raya.
And that's the problem. Leashes aren't banes of thunderworms. Even though the Sabbat aren't subtle, they're still subtle by our standards and by the standards of the worm.
And this is why we have a glasswalker, and hopefully someone who is so tied to the police force as you are, working on it. Isn't that the point?
Very much so.
The Weaver is not oblivious to their actions. She should be able to get a good bit of information. When she has narrowed it down, perhaps you can narrow it further.
Really?
As I said,
wouldn't dismiss him, though.
If you will speak to the wormful on it, I'm sure he'll be happy to pass over what he has gotten from Cammy, so that you can aid further.
Have you got any means of identifying them so far? That's always been the issue. A lot of them don't hide their nature, but there are more that are, well, they're very much capable of doing so.
I doubt I'm the only one on Sub who can sense the worm, right?
It's not about sensing them. Every human carries, well, a lot of humans carry some degree of residual worm taint on them.
I would be a very poor Theurge if I could not separate the ambient taint of the city from that is carried or generated personally, right?
I guess what I'm trying to say is we can see them as worm tainted, but it doesn't necessarily mean we can see them as kindred. We could literally be running into a Formor and have no idea.
But that also not need dealing with, right?
Absolutely, but it's the wrong target, and one is a higher priority than the other.
I suppose if one goes out during the day and one does not, it makes it fairly evident, right?
I disagree. There might be more worm activity at night, but there's still plenty of Formor and other worm-tainted creatures running around.
I fail to see the point, Raya. They are still targets that must be dealt with.
It's always what's made them so hard to combat. They've got even more ties to the city than I do. Give that of their natural affinity for hiding, and the fact that they control half the city's damn infrastructure. But I suppose I've made it a hobby of rooting them out, so it's certainly doable. It just takes a lot of effort.
I imagine it's only so difficult to find those, especially of great public recognition, who are never outside during the day.
That and they have ghouls. People they've bound to themselves with blood to have them do stuff for them during the day. They're not as dangerous as actual leeches, but
I don't care for the ghouls. The point is to identify them. If they are never seen during the day, it seems like a fairly simple starting point.
Oh, they're certainly not going to be on any public records, particularly not Sabat. Maybe Camarilla leeches, but not Sabat.
Wouldn't they have to be on public record to have such control of the city? Right? Their names would be known, and their faces.
I could track them. I don't think I'd be able to find their names and faces. They're not known to human society at large unless they deliberately went out of their way to do that, and even then it would be an alias. Like that of a gang lord or something. If I had connections to kind of...
However it must be done, Raya.
Yeah, I know I'm saying that.
You clearly know more on the subject than I do.
To be honest, I see them as far more dangerous than Banes.
They are practically the Tellurian equivalent, right? Banes walk one side, Fomori walk between the two. But vampires are not so easy to identify as stepping over and simply seeing what is attached. They are, for all intents and purposes, as good as Banes that walk only in the Tellurian.
Their aims are vaguer, different. Sabat don't see themselves as serving the woman anyway. They don't even know what it is. They don't even care.
Does it matter whether or not they mean to?
Oh no, I'm just saying there are significant differences. They're not Banes. I spent a great deal of time studying them. They're not Banes. There's something else to them. When they say they're cursed, they're not lying. They were once human, but they're not formal. They don't have spirits attached to them.
As I said, they may not be Banes. They may not be formal, but they are as close to a Tolarian equivalent as exists, right?
I'd say they're much closer to Garu.
She bristles.
Kind of like a more... a milder spiral, but more ignorant and with more grounded goals and much more dangerous powers.
Whatever the case, Raya, if you need something to focus on, I'm sure that the Wormfoe has a number of things that need doing. Would be happy to know what you wish to focus on so that he could keep track of it and keep the Sept in the loop.
No, I guess I'll do that. It's what I can do after I've looked into the hunters, or as I'm looking into them. Man, the one downside of being in the Umbra is that I can't bring any tea with me. Would have brought my travel mug, but Clave. The one downside to having silver on you.
She kind of pulls a face. Like, really, bruh?
He just says this is very off the cuff. It's like, yeah, no. I speak the truth.
Like, clearly, this is the greatest of your concerns. Side eye.
What? It's true. I can't bring tea with me.
If that is the worst you must suffer, Raya, you leave a very charmed life.
Oh, man. I wish I did. I wish I did.
Perhaps if you wish to look into the hunters, you might volunteer to go look in on Robin's friend to see if she can be found. I believe we still do not have volunteers for that.
Oh, definitely will be. I already made a promise before that was even on the board. I talked to Robin well before she even came to the Sept about this. So
It is well and good, but it is still something that the Wormfoes should know and be aware of. The sooner a team is formed, the sooner it can be done.
you know, I feel very optimistic all of a sudden.
Well, that does make one of us. I'm very glad for you, Raya. She doesn't sound like she's very glad. I'm just going to put that in there. Spoiler.
That's fine. No, I got that bit. We'll deal with all of this. Then we'll get to work on our long-term goals.
It sounds like a plan.
You want to know what all my goals is? This is something I've been planning for a while. Probably the first person I tell, to be honest.
She kind of pauses. She has put a hand in her bag and has by now turned the other foot, like she's trying so hard to find a way to politely leave. No. I am rife with I am rife with suspense, Raya.
Damn. You've gone sassy. He smokes. He seems happy that she is for some reason. Well, I've been thinking about long-term victories. That's why I asked you the question, right? Getting rid of hellholes. You know, it's the sort of thing like, because, you know, you can kill a bunch of Banes, they'll come back someday to some extent or another. it can rid yourselves of spirals and all this, but what are we doing to truly like end this war on a large macro grand scale, right? And I figured there are a few ways in which one can really do this. They're actually pretty well defined. Personally, I want to create a can. I already know the place where I'm going to do it.
And do you have the men necessary to defend a cairn, Raya?
Still working on that. Give me a year.
We already have 2, Raya. If you want to end the war, find a way to solve the Weaver's madness. Find a way to right the imbalance in the worm. And when the Triad is doing as it was meant to, the war ends. Until such a time, however, the best we can do is try to leave the next generation in a better place to do it.
Fuck the Triad.
Her eyebrows shoot up. And in fact, she'll take a point of rage.
We serve Gaia, not the Triad. Triad's not been doing its job for millennia. The Weaver went mad, drove the worm mad, and the world's just doing its own shit, completely ignorant as to what the hell it's doing, because it's in its nature to be completely ignorant. It's a massive concept without form. So you can't trust any of them to get the job done.
And with that, Raya, I think that I should go about my rounds. If you would be so kind, the next time we see each other in the Tellurian is to return my scourge. I don't think you have any means of using it. I would appreciate it. I thank you for this time out of your day.
I don't know. Do you think I'll give it back?
She just gives that you know what a frustrated smile looks like, right? There's more teeth than anything else. Her eyes aren't on you. She just shakes her head. It's not as though you mean to use it, Raya. There's no point to keeping it.
Right, I could just hold on to it, though.
I suppose that is your prerogative, Raya.
Nah, I'm just doing it to annoy you at this point.
You have succeeded. Congratulations. Until next time, Raya. And she just goes to turn. And in fact, will just to add, just to rub a little salt in, finally pulls her hand out of the bag with the travel mug that she will sip out of as she's turning to try to simply walk out of the Cairnheart.
You son of a bitch. You win this round.
I've been called worse. Keeps walking.
Jacob's like, that's not the point. He says in a fairly teasing fashion.
Isn't it? Goes ahead and turns the corner, starts walking down the trail.
Not really. I'm just teasing you.
She just keeps going. At this point, I believe she's taken at least 2 points of rage and is like, nope, not today, Satan. Just walking, sipping out of her mug, taking the tiniest bit of satisfaction that she can, that, you know what, he may not have tea, but she has her awakened coffee, so neener. Unless you mean to give chase. I feel like we should stop this before.
Some bitch Trumag not done. I'm jelly. Jake is gonna meditate on that jelly.
That's right. You meditate on that jelly.
Get that gnosis back.
Become tainted. Dance the spiral.
Falcon, why did Children of Stank get truffle mugs and we don't? What is this bullshit?
That's right. That misborn monster gets a travel mug and you don't.
Exactly. What the fuck?
I hope that this guides your meditation.
It does.
I think we will call it there. Let's say thank you, players, for playing and watchers for watching. And we'll see you next time in another episode of It's a Miracle that 10 Point hasn't slapped more people. Just a fucking miracle. The series.